We're going to discuss how to make a counteroffer. If you're the listing agent and you received a purchase contract from a buyer and your seller is not happy with the terms and conditions of that purchase contract, you would be counteroffer number 1. And make sure that you put in the date. No contract is a valid contract without the date. And this is a counter to the California purchase contract, so you would put a check mark there. On property known as, and so you're going to put in the address. And then you're going to put in the buyer. And the seller. And then you're going to address all the issues in the purchase contract that the seller has where they haven't really had a meeting of the minds. And if there are paragraphs in the purchase contract that both parties did not initial, for an example, let's suppose liquidated damages, the buyer's afraid to give up his deposit, so he would not initial liquidated damages, but the seller, he did initial it. Well, then there has not been a meeting of the minds, so that's something you would have to address in the counter offer. And the way you write up a counter offer is you start with page 1 of the purchase agreement and you address any issues starting with page 1 and work your way through the offer. So the first issue might be the sales price that's offered. And this seller is not happy and he wants to increase the sales price. And let's suppose the buyer has also asked the seller to pay some closing costs and the seller's not willing to pay as much as the buyer wants. And also perhaps in this case, the seller needs a little extra time to move out of the property, so he wants to ask the buyer to remain in the property for an extra 2 or 3 days. Now this document has an expiration date built into it of 72 hours. However, you might want to shorten that up and you could put the buyer's agent's name here and put the date. Maybe only one, maybe you only want to give them 1 day to respond to this offer. Sorry about my typing. And that you're going to allow them to respond at 5 p.m. or maybe by 8 o'clock that night. And this would be forwarded. Here the seller is the one that's making the offer, so you're going to check this box. He's going to sign his name. And if the buyer accepts without any further changes, he will just sign his name here. But if the buyer doesn't accept and wants to negotiate a little more, he's going to put a checkbox here. He's going to sign this, but it's going to be subject to the next counteroffer. So make sure if your buyer's not totally happy with the seller's terms and conditions that you put a little check mark in this box, subject to the attached counteroffer. If this is a multiple counteroffer situation, the seller has the right to review all offers. Even though buyers might agree to his terms and conditions, the seller has the right to get all offers back in his possession and decide which buyer is best for him. And whichever counter he accepts, down here in paragraph 7, that's where he's going to sign